Okay, it took me a moment to realize this, but Pokemon, doesn't matter what universe they're from, doesn't matter what league they're from, they're basically old school, brain rot Italian memes. Your ballerina cappuccinos, your bombardino crocodilo. They have their own lore. You know, these TikTok videos about these brain rot meme animals or whatever you want to call them are basically like the Pokedex entries. You know, it took me a new release, a new league of Pokemon to come out to make that connection. Like, huh, what's the last thing that seemed collectible? A variety of different animals that didn't really make sense with their own lore. This is effectively old school Pokemon, or Gen Z, Gen Alpha, brain rot version of Pokemon. Except you gotta pay to play with these Pokemon online, but I don't know. It's open source Pokemon. That's what it is. Italian. Blah, blah, blah. This is what happens when I don't have enough coffee in the morning. Anyway, Italian brain rot animals, or whatever you want to call them, are open source Pokemon. But hey, there's good news on the horizon for you old school Pokemon fanboys. Nintendo releases high-res images. Come on, these Italian brain rot memes are way higher resolution than these guys. They're animated. They're going about. The resolution on Tung 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 Sahur, breathtaking compared to these hand-drawn. Look at this. Kindergarten images, low effort. Come on, work harder, Nintendo. But these are the official images. They actually look pretty good. Um, yeah, stiff competition for Italian brain rot memes. But to be honest, ever since I was a young boy, I was a little child, I've always wanted to play a 3D version of Pokemon Yellow, Red, Blue, Green, etc. I think I've only played those 2D version games where you're basically walking around on a map. I don't know. You know, I'm not a hardcore gamer, so I really pay attention to the aesthetics of the graphics. Call me a soft gamer. Check out two high-resolution images of the often derided Pokemon Scarlet, often derided Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Okay, I don't know what the derision's about. There's these Pokemon swimming around. Honestly, I will say though, it takes away from the surprise of wild Pokemon just appearing in your face. Like if you can see these Pokemon in the grass, you can avoid them, which I'm happy about for the next generation of players that are going to have to avoid, that are going to be able to avoid like a Rattata or a Caterpie just showing up out of the blue when you're trying to get somewhere. But hey, you know, this generation's soft. Everyone has it too easy these days. All right, enough of living in the make-believe world of nostalgia. Let's move on to adult news. Speaking of fun-killing adults, the fun police, Apple blocks access to video game Fortnite in US, EU, Epic Games says. Okay, if you guys don't know about this, I'm sure you do. Apple charges a 30% on top of whatever these app makers are charging for you to download their app and for their subscriptions, which honestly seems a bit scummy. It's not like Apple doesn't make enough money from selling the gazillion iPhones that they're making in offshore overseas facilities for super cheap and then jacking up super high markup prices and selling them back in the US, right? Apple is so flush with cash. What do you need the extra 30% for? Why are you trying to make enemies out of everybody? Well, Epic Games stood its ground, and this is the latest development in that beef between Apple and Epic Games. Okay, Apple has blocked the Fortnite video game on its iPhones in the United States to the game maker's own store in the European Union, its maker Epic Games said on Friday. Access to Fortnite via Apple's iPhone operating system and through its App Store will be unavailable worldwide until Apple unblocks it, Epic Games said. This feels like a power trip by Apple. I think the real players here are going to be the annoyed mothers that are going to have to deal with these children, these iPad kids, that all of a sudden can't play Fortnite and now will demand attention from their parents. They're the real losers here. So Apple might be playing 4D chess here, where they expect the parents to rally, maybe file complaints to Epic Games, and eventually get them to concede and accept 30% surcharge that Apple is basically making downloaders of the game pay. Okay, well, Apple may not have made a comment about why it's doing the ban, but I think we know, right? Epic, a US-based studio, not to be confused with Epic Services, which is the healthcare data management platform. I'm not even sure why I brought the comparison here, completely unrelated to the story that's unfolding here. Anyway, back to my China's Tencent. This I didn't know about. Huh. There may be more geopolitics. Politics afoot. Is the world's largest game studio. Also didn't know about this. I mean, it makes sense. To be honest, Fortnite has got to be the ChatGPT equivalent for video games for Gen Alpha, Gen Z. Since 2020, however, it has been an illegal battle with Apple after the gaming firm alleged that Apple's practice of charging 30% in commission on in-app payments violated US antitrust rules. I'm so glad they spoke up. And you know what? What's nicer is a company that can move their own weight around, the biggest video gaming platform, spoke up about this. Because any other company that spoke up about this would have been in legal battles for years, and Apple would have steamrolled them easy. Okay, let's hope the 30% fee commission gets removed. It's going to be a more welcoming atmosphere for everybody to create. And maybe we'll get a Pokemon Brain Rot Italian version out of the App Store when studios don't have to pay extra in fees. Okay, Chicago public bathroom reviews. Comedians Commode takes go viral. This is what I mean when I say Chicagoans are delulu about how great their city really is. If you want an honest opinion about whether or not you should move to Chicago, ask a Chicagoan in the winter if it's a great city and if they'd consider or they would, recommend you moving there. It's also called Chirac for a reason. Bullets do be flying. There's neighborhoods where you should be looking over your shoulders. But this to me speaks to how Chicagoans are just obsessed with how amazing their cities is, as the city is. They're reviewing commodes now. They're going to toilets and like harking about the architecture of commodes. I mean, like, sure, Chicago's got amazing architecture, but come on, we got to draw the line somewhere. Let's not review toilet architecture. Let's take a deeper dive here. So this is the guy. Look at him. Look at him. So happy. So excited. What is it? This isn't even a commode, my guy. This is a urinal. Did you at least take a piss in the urinal, or are you a poser? Are you just peddling false reviews? Anyway, lots of questions there. Al Scorch knows how to find beauty in unusual places. That's a stretch of the word unusual, and a stretch of the word beauty. The green tiles covering the walls by Gumper Sparks toilets. The polished walls and terrazzo floors of the Shabona Park bathroom. The patterning on the windows near Kilbourne Park's urinals. Words are not happening as they normally do out of my mouth today. Palaces of the People, Scorch declared in the video shot inside a bathroom at Sherman Park. 1301 West 52nd Street. I'm just imagining this guy's taking a video inside of a bathroom right next to a urinal. What happens when somebody walks in? How committed are you to filming that video? Do you hit pause? Do you continue with the roll? Do you incorporate people coming into the shot as, hey, this is the natural social aesthetic of Chicago bathrooms? You got nice bathrooms, you got nice architecture, you got nice people. These are the real questions. I mean, yeah, the bathroom is great, but to be honest, I think a big part of the bathroom aesthetic is the crowd it attracts, right? So, yeah, I want a full review. But Chicago is as Chicago does. Super delulu about how they're a great city. On to these segues are wild. We're talking about commodes 1 second, and now we're talking about global politics. Russia-Ukraine talks. Prisoner exchange agreed upon. Ukraine requests Putin-Zelenskyy meeting. Okay, this is great, right? I think there's a trend going on around the world where people are talking. right? People are reaching across the aisle, people are having conversations. Maybe a good sign. Let's read on further. Russia and Ukraine agreed to a prisoner exchange during peace talks in Turkey on Friday, which were led by a U.S. delegation headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, pictured right here. Don't know why I had to point out what the guy looked like. Two sides will conduct a 1,000 for 1,000 person prisoner exchange at a yet to be determined time, officials said. Prisoner exchanges are always so interesting. Like, how do you compare a prisoner for a prisoner, right? How do you know that the prisoner swap is a fair value trade? Like, okay, all right, I'm not trying to step on hairy territory here. I'm not trying to say that we should be assigning value on the trade of humans. We've done away with that era. But how do you know that you're not getting, duped in a deal like this? Do we compare the rap sheets of prisoners? Is a arms dealer as valuable, in prison terms, whatever that means, as, I don't know, like a child trafficker, a, like a cop killer? I don't know. I feel like there needs to be an apples to apples comparison or a crime for crime comparison, you know, um, before we just look at the numbers and be like, oh, 1,000 for 1,000, that's fair. Both sides agreed to present their vision for a ceasefire. Notably absent from Friday's talks were Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who is in Albania, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is okay. So nobody, okay, this Russia-Ukraine talk, none of the heads of state showed up because 1,000 prisoners is not a high bar of a number for these guys to, come to the table. Ukrainian officials on Friday asked for a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. Russia officials said they would take the proposed meeting under advisement. What's Turkey doing in the mix? Turkish foreign minister said Russia and Ukraine have agreed in principle to come together again after Friday's talks in Istanbul, which lasted for an hour 15 minutes. Istanbul is a great city. Whether you're trying to do a prisoner swap or not, do go check it out. The city is absolutely overrun by cats. I visited last summer. Would go back in a heartbeat. Great weather, great culture, great desserts, and great prisoner swap deals, apparently. Now for the story that we want to really drill down on. Tesla robot demo stuns audience. Mass production set for 2025. Look, this is AI demonstrating scary capabilities. This is AI robots looking you in the eye and telling you, you better watch out, motherfucker. I'm coming for your job. I'm coming for your family. I'm coming for your wife because I can do everything that you can do better. It used to just be mental stuff. I used to just be able to sing poetry and write emails. Now I can do the dance. Now I can walk the walk and talk the talk, right? I think we should really hit the brakes on developing AI before we come up with some ground rules, right? Like, what are the configurations? I personally am happy with AI robots if they're shorter than me. I feel less threatened by them. How fast can these robots run? What appendages do these robots possess? Lots left uh, open to interpretation, and probably a lot of details we should lock down. The robot performed complex movements, including ballet and coordinated dance sequences. You know what's like ballet and coordinated dance sequences? Martial arts. If this robot was demoing martial arts moves, if this robot was, I don't know, doing the crouching tiger or like a 720 taekwondo kick, we wouldn't be as chill about this story as we are right now. That we're reportedly learning entirely through simulation before being executed in real world tests. This is 100% true. The reason robotics are able to learn so much so quickly is basically like that scene in Matrix where Neo just downloads a file, plays it in his head, and just turns to the camera and is like, I know Kung Fu now. That's exactly what Isaac Sim, tools that allow robots to learn how to interact with the real world in a simulated environment, work like. And we should be really, really scared. If they can pick up, ballet this quarter, they're sure as heck going to be picking up, I don't know, breakdancing the next quarter. Not even the next quarter, in maybe a day or two, in a couple of hours, because that's how great simulations are. Tesla said that the training drew on its reinforcement learning expertise and highlighted a major step forward in mobility. If they're dancing, they sure as hell can be running to keep up with you. CEO Elon Musk said the current version remains a work in progress, though Tesla is targeting a production of 5,000 units in 2025. That is 5,000 jobs. Nay, that is maybe 20,000 jobs that are going to be lost to these Optimus robots. Okay, looking ahead, Tesla expects to begin selling Optimus externally by 2026, so they're just going to be taking Tesla assembly line jobs for now, with a projected price range of $25,000 to $30,000 per unit. That's pretty cheap, like I don't know how much you're paying the average factory worker, but you could pay $25,000 for one of these robots and you're set for like a decade. All you have to do is just plug that sucker in for 2 hours, maybe a day, and it's back to the production line the next day. To be honest, can you make pre-orders on the Tesla Optimus robots? Because this seems like an amazing butler to just have around the house, you know? Um, yeah. Other players in the humanoid robotics race include Figure AI. Yeah, Figure AI has been absolutely killing it, backed by Microsoft and OpenAI, as well as Boston Dynamics, Agility Robotics, Sanctuary AI, and Xpeng. Xpeng makes a lot of EVs too, so kind of makes sense that they're like Tesla in that regard. They're also making robots. Apple and Meta are also exploring robotic platforms at various stages in development. Guys, okay, serious talk here. If you're trying to work on a startup, Diana who, one of the partners at OpenAI has openly said this. They are expecting, they are ready to fund startups in the robotics space. This is a hard problem to solve, or at least this is a problem that your everyday vibe coders aren't getting into. If you want to build a robotics platform, if you want to write software for robotics, this is the time to do it. All right. Speaking of building robots and the scary progress they're making, we're definitely okay. So, spoiler alert, I actually don't have the access behind the paywall to this article, but I just wanted to fearmonger a little bit because I'm definitely pretty spooked about this. The folks that are leading the development of AI are sure as heck going to build bunkers for themselves in the unlikely event all of this goes to heck, right? And I don't know, these humanoid robots that have AGI downloaded into their brains take over the world. This is not great, right? Especially when we're planning on making thousands and thousands of humanoid robots. We're very close, nay, on the brink of hacking AGI. And it's only billionaires and millionaires, multimillionaires who have access to space travel and who can afford to build bunkers. So they're either going to be, so if this grand experiment with AI goes south, they're either going to be in hiding or they're going to be in outer space. Anyway, yeah, there's so much drama that's been going on with OpenAI. Um, well, let's get into it. In the summer of 2023, Ilya Sutskever, a co-founder and the chief scientist of OpenAI, was meeting with a group of new researchers at the company. By all traditional metrics, Sutskever should have felt invincible. He was the brain behind the large language models and helped build ChatGPT, then the fastest growing app in history. That is true. They grew to 1 million users in, what is it, 5 days? His company's valuation had skyrocketed, and OpenAI was the unrivaled leader of the industry believed to power the future of Silicon Valley. But the chief scientist seemed to be at war with himself. Okay, so this is going to be a lot of setup until you get into the meat of the article, but the dead giveaway is honesty in the title. Bunkers before they release AGI. Not great. But here's a bit of refreshing news. Robotaxis are still running into the most dumbest things. Waymo recalls 1,200 robotaxis following low-speed collisions with gates and chains. So if you are a group of, I don't know, punk goth kids with a lot of chains, you better watch out. Terrible, terrible line. Don't know why I thought of it. Anyway, Waymo issued a software recall on 1,200 self-driving vehicles after some of its robotaxis were involved in minor crashes with gates, chains, and other gate-like roadway objects. What does that even mean? Are we talking doors? Are we talking gates? Because technically, Cars have doors. Are they doors? Are Waymos going to be running into other cars now? Unclear. The software update, which was first reported by Reuters, was conducted late last year, according to documents filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The Alphabet-owned company said in the document that Waymo's safety board decided to conduct a recall to that specific version of the driverless software to fulfill relevant regulatory reporting obligations. Okay, so reporting stuff. Waymo has issued at least two other recalls. The company issued a software recall in June 2024 to its Jaguar I-based robotaxis after one of them collided with a telephone pole. Okay, credit where credit's due. There is somewhere between, yeah, there we go. Waymo has 1,500 commercial robotaxis in operation across these four different cities. And I have taken a robotaxi, I've taken a Waymo taxi. People around you on the road are bullying that car like it's nobody's business. This is cyberbullying enacted upon a virtual driver. It's horrendous. They're going to be brake checking you. They're going to be coming up super close to you. They're going to be cutting you off aggressively. Just sort of, like I guess it works out. This is offering a lot of edge case training data for these robotaxis. But if it occasionally runs into a gate that is chained at low speed, cut the taxis a break, right? I want this to be on record for when the AI overlords take over that I was being very, very kind and generous and thoughtful towards these robots. But hey, if they're occasionally running into a telephone pole, cut them some slack. They ain't kill nobody. They're not like GM's Cruise robo taxis that drag like a pedestrian, a biker, like some 20 feet. That's crazy. But yeah, if a random telephone post gets a little bump, so what? Nobody died, no one's injured, no one's scarred for life. Anyway, on that note, thank you for checking out the stream. We'll be covering news